Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Fight with Teddy Atlas. I'm Teddy Atlas III, joined by International Boxing Hall of Fame trainer and commentator, Hall of Fame grandfather and father, my man, Teddy Atlas. How you doing, bud?
My agent, my son, my everything, okay? All right? You have a son, you have a daughter, you have children, you have grandchildren, you're blessed. I'm blessed. I just want to, I've never done this before, I don't think, but I don't know, it just feels this way, so I do what I feel sometimes. I'm just thankful. I want to thank God for healthy grandchildren, children, you know, to love, to care about, and friends, and that care about my family. And I just want to say that, I don't know. I just, some days you feel that way. I just feel that way right now. And I'm thankful for all of those things. I'm thankful for the show. I'm thankful for an opportunity to be working with my son. And I want to thank the rest of our team, Rich Limbacher and Bennett Garcia, who do the editing and the filming. Rich does the filming, Bennett does the editing. They do a great job. And as always, my son, who gives me a reason for doing this and makes me look a tiny bit better, which is not easy. It's not easy. So what do we got going on? We got the NCAA going on, upsets as usual. Great tournament, maybe the greatest sporting event of the year. You know, Super Bowl one day, okay, no problem. But 3-week period, nothing matches, nothing surpasses the action, the upsets, the passion, the thrills, the skills of college basketball in that big tournament. Where everything's on the line every day. You know, you're one and done. If you lose, you're gone. You know, and as the great Jimmy Valvano once said, survive, what was it? Survive and, I forget what his saying was.
Survive in advance?
Oh, yeah, that was pretty easy. Yeah, thank you. Survive in advance. And, you know, there is no tomorrow if you don't survive, and then you advance to win. So UConn, everybody, I think most of the people that watch this podcast for the last several years know that for the last 3 years I've spoken to the UConn team with Danny Hurley, who I think is the best coach in college basketball, and he comes from a royal, a basketball, from basketball royalty, I guess you would say. His father being a legendary high school coach in Jersey City, not only taught kids how to play basketball, but how to live life and to survive life, to become better people in those areas. And his brother, Bobby Hurley, Danny's brother, he won 2 national titles at Duke and was one of the greatest college basketball players of all time. One of the greatest guards of all time, and probably would have been one of the great NBA players if he didn't have that near-fatal car accident. So,
That's right.
Anyway,
and
Danny...
current coach at Arizona State right now.
Yeah. So, again, they come from, just royalty, basketball royalty. And Danny's trying to do what hasn't been done in 25 years since the great John Wooden did it with UCLA, trying to three-peat. And they're big underdogs against Florida, the number 1 seeded team in the country, number 1 overall. Them and Duke are considered the 2 top teams, I think, in the country. And Florida was a big favorite. And never count out a champ. You know, I had said last week that I'm going to do a video for them, send a video out to Danny and the team, and they listened to it. And basically my message in the video, you know, obviously they had 10 losses this year. They had an off year for their standards, and they were limping into the tournament coming off a loss. And, you know, a lot of people just wrote them off, where they were, I think they were rated number 8 going in. I think they were seeded number 8 going in. And they had their first game against Oklahoma, That was a tough game. They won the game. But anyway, going in, not too many people gave him any chance to three-peat. And the message in the video was pretty simple, that obviously you guys have been down. You guys have lost. A lot of people have counted you out. And I said two things. One was, we are not defined by our wins. We're celebrated by them in life, but we are defined by our losses and what we do after our losses and what our losses do to us, how they impact us, what we learn from them, how they affect us, and again, how we behave after our losses. And that they had a chance now to do something special. They had a chance to teach people that you are defined by your losses, what you do afterwards. And being that they were the dog now, they had an opportunity to do something special. And the last thing I said to him in a message in a couple-minute video was that my mentor, Customato, used to always say, yeah, sometimes a champion will be in a bad spot where they've lost a few fights, looks like they've lost something off their fastball, looks like they might not be the same fighter, and they're in a fight as the underdog. And on one given night, there was one thing Cuss would tell me that you can never forget about a champion. They just might remember they're a champion. That's what I said in the video, that on one given night, no matter what they've been through, how they've been down, how they've been beaten up a little bit, be careful, be careful, be careful. They might remember they're a champion. And that's how I ended it. Remember you're a champion. Go get them. And right now, my son checked the score. This is Sunday. They're playing right now. They're winning they were winning last time my son checked the score in the second half by 3 points with a lot of time to go. But they were playing a hell of a game against the top team in the country. So we'll see. We'll know tomorrow. I guess we might know before we get off the air. We might know whether or not they won. But we'll find out. Either way, it's a great tournament. Good luck to them. And having celebrated those kind of things, we have something sad to talk about here and to announce, unfortunately. Boxing took a big blow. Boxing lost one of their real great champions and great people and important people, historic people. George Foreman, big George Foreman. It's a huge loss. It's a loss, I think, to humanity as much as it is to boxing. The sport takes a big loss, but I think we all take a loss when we lose a good person, a person who cares about others, a person who teaches others to be better, just by their example. I mean, big George Foreman was the heavyweight champion, was an Olympic champion. How can you forget that image of that big man with those big giant hands, and yet he's got this little American flag carrying it around. It was just quite an image when he won the Olympics. He's got this flag. He was patriotic. He was. It wasn't him doing what he did years later when in his second coming of George, he learned how to be savvy PR-wise. That was just George being George, where he's holding that American flag. I know people say, oh, no, it was a pretty smart PR move, Ted, to do that. No, it was him showing what he wanted to show, that he was proud to be American. He was proud to be an Olympian. He was proud to represent his country. And George Foreman, the reason why I'm talking about right now in the way I am, is that he was so much more than just a fighter. He really personified what fighting really was, to overcome. I mean, he had you talk about tough upbringings. He talked about the Fifth Ward. I remember one time when I was with him in a group setting, he was talking about where he grew up in Houston, and the Fifth Ward, it was an area it was a difficult area. It was a dangerous area. It was an area where more bodies came out of there the wrong way than the right way. Put it that way. And he came out of there and he credited this country for having a program. I think it was called the youth program. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the youth program where young youth that had been in trouble, that had been a little wayward, the government started a program where you worked. Where you work, on the side of roads, where you work chopping trees down, you're clearing out areas, doing different. There was a name for the program, but he really credited that program for helping him during that period in his life, for in some ways saving his life. But you got to give him credit that he stayed with that program. He allowed himself to be helped. He understood that there had to be a different direction, a different choice. Did you find the name of that program?
It was the Lyndon B. Johnson Job Corps.
Yeah, Job Corps. That's what it was, the Job Corps. And he credited that for really getting him on the right track to get him past the times that he had to get past that time in his life without damaging himself more than he had already at that point from where he was coming from. He went on, he won an Olympic gold medal, he won a heavyweight title. He was the boogeyman in boxing. He was the guy that everyone, he scowled, he looked mean, and he punched mean, he big. He hit guys and they went away. They did a promotional thing. He fought 5 guys in one night and beat all 5 guys, whatever that was. And then, it was more than just, we hadn't seen really anything quite like it, where, they had to go to those extremes to almost make it like some kind of, I don't want to say a circus act, but where they said, okay, we got to put 5 guys in the ring. We got to, we have to present him in this kind of way for his power and for the way that he's just a Goliath amongst other people, amongst people in this business now that are all just ordinary compared to him. So he knocks out 5 guys. I think he knocked all 5 out, but he beats 5 guys in one night. And he still never got the understanding of what he really wanted. He never quite got that. He was playing the role that he was expected to play with his power and his size and his gift and his heavyweight title. He was playing Darth Vader. He was eliminating guys. You put him in the ring, he got rid of the guys. And he was playing the part that he thought he had to play, the villain. And he played it damn good. But that wasn't really him. But that's all we had seen. That's all he was really allowed to be. And then what happens? He fights that historic fight in Zaire against Muhammad Ali. And he gets beat. He gets knocked out. 8th round, 9th round, whatever round it was. Millions of people in Africa watching that. Millions of people around the world watching it. Who can forget that? There was a great documentary by Leon Gass that was put out about that fight. And you see all the hundreds of thousands of African kids and people along the streets when they were coming to the ring. And what are they yelling? Ali Boombaye. In other words, Ali, kill him. Because Ali now was the one who was, Ali was, he was the Force to Darth Vader, right? He was the Force. He was Obi Kenobi, whatever the guy's name is, he was the Force. He was, he's going to destroy the empire, and he destroyed the empire. And Foreman was, he was crushed. He was crushed. Then he fights Jimmy Young. He gets beat, and he retires. And what does he do? He goes and he becomes a preacher. And nobody paid a lot of attention to it. It's because he lost, and now he's trying to be a preacher. No, he was always trying to be what he needed to be. Do you understand the story I'm going to here, bud? That it was never... He was that other thing because other people needed him to be that other thing. But that wasn't George. That wasn't George. He went to a church, he preached, he helped people that were, instead of knocking people down, he started picking people up. And he did it for 10 years in the church, and they ran out of money. And then he decided that he was going to come back, and he was going to raise money for the church. And he came back. 10 years being away. He came back. And he eventually got all the way. He fought Holyfield for the heavyweight title. He lost. And then he got another shot. And it took him a few years. When he was 45 years old, he wins the heavyweight title. He does the complete extraordinary feat of winning the heavyweight title at 45. Just think about it. It's one thing to win it at 45, but to be away 10 years? I mean, just think about it, 10 years. I mean, your lawnmower wouldn't work after 10 years. Yeah, it would. Richie's laughing. You put in a garage in a lawnmower, it would get rusty. It would get dust on it. It would have grass all clumped up inside. That wouldn't work after 10 years. To come back and win the heavyweight title and to lose, he lost before he won it. He didn't just win it, but he persevered. He didn't give in. Again, I've talked about this before. You go to Webster's Dictionary. What is a fighter? What is a fighter? George Foreman is a fighter. What is a fighter? Someone who overcomes. Someone who finds a way. Somebody who doesn't give in. Somebody who finds light in a dark place where other people just allow it to stay dark. That's what George Foreman, he taught us. He did more than give us drills. He taught us that if you believe hard enough in something, you can make it come true. Yeah, he gave people over 40 and another another way of looking at life, where who says you can't do whatever it is you want to do after 40? Who says? Who says? That guy said? The doctor said? Your psychiatrist said? Your neighbor said? Your coach said? But did you say it? Did you say you couldn't do it? Did you? No, I didn't. Then you can. That's what he taught people. Because he had the grills, he made $200 million, selling the grill. And he sold Midas mufflers, I think. People forget about that. He sold so many things. Why? Because you believe George, because the real George came out. Because now, after all that, the real George came out. A guy that you believed, a guy you liked. Guy you could trust. A guy you weren't scared of. That was George Foreman. A guy who made us all better. At the end of the day, he made us all better. God bless you, George. I miss you. Boxing misses you. But we won't forget you.
Yeah, beautifully said. I just wanted to share in when he became, as you just alluded to, the oldest heavyweight champion of the world at 45 years old, was at our expense, unfortunately. You were training Michael Moorer. And I was 9 years old, sitting ringside and devastated. Moorer was winning the whole entire fight. 10th round, Foreman drops a bomb, knocks Michael out. And for a long time, I hated George Foreman. And I thought he got lucky that night. And it took me years to realize he didn't get lucky. And had to respect him and appreciate him for the man that he was. So beautiful words by you, and our thoughts and condolences are with the Foreman family. So with that being said, go ahead, bud.
No, you just said that beautifully. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you to, just to say that, to come to terms, to understand your feelings and share those feelings. That I appreciate that.
Yeah, and we had some special memories after that. He came and supported our foundation, the Dr. Atlas Foundation in Staten Island, New York, and attended the dinners and was always there to, as you said, to make people better and to help. So he will be missed. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the fights from the boxing world this weekend. We'll start off with the card that was in Australia. It was headlined by George Kambosos in the main event. But before we get into the main event, we'll touch on the co-feature. We had the ladies. We had the WBC featherweight title fight, Sky Nicolson versus Tierra Brown. Nicolson came in undefeated as the world champion, 29 years old, and she lost the belt. She was upset. What a story. Tierra Brown, over a 5-1 underdog coming in, 36 years old, a former police officer, I believe in Florida and in Washington, D.C., and comes in and pulls off the major upset in foreign soil, I should say, over there in Australia. I thought it was a boring fight, tactical fight. Nicolson moving, trying to box, be cute, and Brown bringing the pressure, moving forward. I thought the second half of the fight, Brown took over. She was more physical. She was stronger. She started to break Nicolson down. What'd you think of the decision? It was a split decision. What'd you think of the fight overall?
Brown earned it. You said it beautifully. I think they're both good people, but I felt good about Brown winning it. I just felt happy for all the reasons you just said. Big underdog, 36 years old, put a life on the line by being a police officer, looking out for others, protecting others. Nicolson, a fine woman, but she's been the champ. She had a taste of that. She'll get a chance to have another taste of it, an opportunity for it. But Brown had her moment. I think this is the way that I would break that fight down. For me, Nicolson always fought the way she looked. And this is not a knock on her. How can we be knocking her? We're taking time on our show to make sure that we talk about a woman's fight that maybe a lot of people would think it wasn't important enough to talk about. But we felt it was. For the reason you just said, for the accomplishment, the upset, all of that. And Nicolson, for me, fought the way she looked, pretty. That and again, it's not being disparaging at all. I think Brown is beautiful too. But I'm just saying she had that, just like sometimes guys you can say, that's a pretty boy. That's a pretty boy. Oscar De La Hoya was called that. Oh, that's a pretty boy. You know what I mean? Yeah. But he was a hell of a fighter. But Nicolson fought that way, like on the outside, real cautious, good. I mean, counter-puncher. You got close, she tied you up, smart. Again, she's going to stay pretty. She's going to fight pretty. She got. Look, there was the great, some of the great fighters of way back in the era of the 30s and the 20s and the 40s, when they had 200 fights and fought everybody in the world, and they only had one champion in every division. There was certain fighters. I'm trying to remember. Harry Greb was one of the great middleweights of all time. My God, he had about 300 fights, 100 of them with one eye. Just extraordinary. Someday we'll go into these old timers a little bit more. And then you had so many. Who was the great Bonnie Ross? Not Bonnie Ross. That was another great fighter. The great Jewish champion, Benny Leonard. He never messed his hair up. Like he, I don't know if they combed it in the corner back in those. I don't think so. But he. That was one of the things about him. He was a great boxer. And he was such a great boxer that people would say can't even muss his hair. He doesn't even get his hair mussed. He's such a great boxer. Well, Nicolson, just to prove that I'm not in any way being disparaging, but she fought that way, that she was in the way that I'm explaining, in a pretty way. And what it was going to take to beat her was a fight that became ugly. And that's what it was. A fight that became ugly, a fight that became physical, a fight that got on the inside, a fight that, just got into the trenches. And also from a technical, physical standpoint, took advantage of where she wasn't as good. She was mostly good with her legs on the outside, counterpunching, getting off, giving angles, moving, keeping space. But she was not good. She basically was confessing to that by her style. Because every time you got close to her, what did she do, bud?
She helped.
She tied you up.
Yeah.
And it was smart. It was smart because she's going to beat you on the outside. And then she's going to tie you up where she don't give you a chance to beat her where she's not good or as good on the inside. So it was always going to take a fighter who could get on the inside and take advantage of where she wasn't strong and where she didn't want to really be. The pretty girl wanted to be on the outside. She's a fighter. She's got heart. Again, I'm not minimizing that. I am not in any way knocking that or daring to even suggest she didn't have heart. She had a lot of heart, and she showed it in this fight too. But her preference, because of her styles and her makeup in all ways, mentally, physically, technically, was to fight on the outside. So Brown understood that. She pressed. And like you said, the second half of the fight, she got inside and she was able to take advantage of where Nicolson is not as good and work on the inside. Make it a little ugly. And the fight was ugly. It wasn't a pretty fight. It wasn't a fight that was a greatly entertaining fight. There was a lot of punch and clutch. There was a lot of punching and then tying up on the inside. But Brown kept trying to do the work on the inside. And she did enough to make it the kind of fight she needed it to be. And yeah, it got sloppy, it got all those things. That's what I mean by ugly. Nothing else. It got all that. And that all benefited the style and the physical makeup of Brown. She made it her fight down the stretch. And she won the fight. She won the title. Congratulations.
Yeah, she won the geography battle, as you say. And you nailed this one. We saw Sky Nicolson fight in Saudi Arabia versus a friend of ours, Raven Chapman, in the first ever female fight in Saudi Arabia. And you said when she fights somebody who's more physical and steady with the aggression, she might have some problems. And that's exactly what happened this past weekend. So before we move on to the main event for that fight, I just want to take a quick pause and give a thank you to today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. These guys spent 10 years with top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients, has vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. It's like an insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim special offer of 10 free travel packs. So, with that being said, we'll move on from the ladies to the main event. Former world champion George Kambosos was in action, fighting a homecoming fight in Australia. He fought a 5-day last-minute replacement in Jake Wyllie, who replaced Dord Jordan, who was ruled medically out 5 days before the fight. Local kid, Wyllie, tough game. He came to win. He didn't come just to show up and get a moral victory of going the distance, which is what happened in the end. I thought it was a very competitive fight. He made it very close. A game, tough kid. Kambosos was more skilled, was more dimensional. He gets the win. He moves on. This was his debut at 140 pounds, so we will see what is next. It sounds like it might be a title shot against Richardson Hitchens. But what did you think of the fight? What did you think of Kambosos' performance?
Yeah, listen, first thing I think it's fair to say, from my perspective, I think it is, Kambosos, his people, he's gotten a lot out of his ability, out of what his ability is. He really has. In some ways, he's one of those, we have fighters, we have performers, we have people in life, in whatever path that they choose, whatever vocation they choose, that underperform. And they don't live up to their potential. They never get the most out. He's the opposite. He's a guy who's gotten every drip out of what his ability is. You got to give him credit. And I want to give his people credit. I want to give his promoters, his managers, they've done a great job in taking a guy and making a lot of money and getting a lot of top fights with him after, I mean, maybe the best way to say it is some people don't make the most out of an opportunity. They might win a big fight, they might win a big moment, a big case in the courtroom, whatever it is, a big baseball game, basketball game, whatever, maybe a triumph in some other area in life, but they don't quite take it to the next point. They don't quite match it with other things where they make the most of it. He has made the most of that upset win with Teofimo Lopez. I mean, you can't say enough for what him and his people, and it has been a real team effort, how much they've really made out. I've seen a lot of fighters. I could go through a list. I'm not gonna right now, but I could go through a list of guys who have won a big fight that should have changed their life, and it didn't. It didn't. And this one did. I mean, they went and they from that they got to 2 fights with Haiti. They worked in an automatic rematch. I mean, it was really they crossed every T, dotted every I. They did what managers, promoters should do. And he did his part by putting himself in that position. But they got a lot out of that. And then
and his last fight, the Lomachenko bout as well.
And then he gets the Lomachenko fight, big money fight, big fight. Of course he gets beaten. He gets beaten thoroughly in that fight. But that's part of the thing that I'm talking about. He lost after that incredible upset with Teofimo. He lost most of his fights after that, the big ones. I mean, he won the Hughes fight, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, Maxie Hughes. Yep.
Right? And that was a tough fight. And then he lost to Haiti, he lost to Lomachenko, and he lost definitively. I mean, he was competitive with Haiti, but really he lost, and he lost.
He was stopped. That was the only stoppage. Yes,
he got stopped. And yet, here he is, about to fight for another world title. I mean, again, I can't say enough for the people that are with him and for himself and his resiliency, all of that. And a lot of people, as I'm saying, say he didn't deserve it. Teddy, see what you're saying. He got shots other people didn't get or shouldn't get. Hey, look, he put himself in position for all of this to happen by beating Teofimo when nobody gave him a snowball's chance in hell to win that fight. They probably would have gave a snowball a better chance, especially if a Philadelphia Eagle fans had made that snowball. They might have gave that a better chance. And the football people out there that are football, but they understand what I mean. And I love Philadelphia fans. Don't go nuts. But they are a little tough. They are tough. I mean, they threw snowballs at Santa Claus. Come on. They're rough. And my son comes from a place where the fans, they don't get no rougher. Oakland, California, they don't get no tougher or no rougher. And my own son said, we might get topped by the Philadelphia fans. And that's saying quite a bit. So, again, he's getting another world title shot against Hitchens. I think that's going to be a tough fight for him to win. I think he might get busted up with Hitchens being young, his style, his jab, controlling the outside. If Kambosos can't get close, he can't win. And I think Hitchens can do a good job of not letting him get close for the most part. And even when he gets close, doing some damage as he gets close. That jab of Hitchens is going to be a hell of a problem. And again, Kambosos is older now. He's had scar tissue around his eye. He got a bad cut in this fight. I can see him getting busted up. But look, he's going to get another payday. He's going to get another shot at the crown. Give him credit. This fight, give Wyllie a lot of credit. As my son said, last-minute replacement, late replacement, and he's got to go into the he's got to not only fight the favorite, the guy who had full time, the former champion, full time to prepare, but he's got to go into his den. He's got to go into the enemy's den, into the lion's den. That ain't easy. And he did a hell of a job. I tell you who didn't do a good job. The judges. Are you shocked I'm going to say that? The judges did not did not do a good job. I thought it was a close fight. The way I saw the fight was this. I saw Kambosos doing everything my son said. Winning the early part of the fight, being more dimensional, counterpunching, mixing it up, going in and out with his legs, pot-shotting, putting punches together in spots, landing left hooks because Wyllie kept dropping his right hand early on. He built the lead early on. He was more dimensional. He was faster. His hands were quicker, all of that. And Wyllie was one-dimensional, looking to just come forward. But Wyllie was consistent with that. And Wyllie was doing something very, very just fundamental. Fundamentals are good. Sometimes that's all you need. Technically fundamental, but you got to be solid. You got to be consistent. He was consistent at coming forward behind his jab. And when he doubled it up, it was effective because it closed the gap. And he landed the jab. And the jab started to get him in position to land other punches, like the right hand. And I'll tell you, Kambosos built up a lead. Around the 6th round, I thought Wyllie needed to win a round or really change the course of the fight. And he did. I thought he won a round. Then I thought he won the 7th. I thought that he started putting rounds together. And again, his just being, sometimes it's a talent, just being fundamentally solid and being steady. Just steady. He was fundamentally solid, nothing fancy at all. Jab and right hand, moving his feet, but he moved his feet in. He didn't reach. He didn't get careless. He didn't get reckless. He didn't do some of the work for Kambosos, where it would be easier for Kambosos to counter him. No, he did it fundamentally correct, and he did it steadily. And it started paying off. 6th round, 7th round, 8th round. And they were close. I mean, Kambosos' experience, he used his experience. He showed his experience. He showed his versatility in spots when he had to, even late in the fight, where he had to all of a sudden pull a round after maybe I thought Wyllie had won a few in a row or a couple in a row. But they were close rounds down the stretch. But I thought Wyllie started to land right hands, started to close the gap with the jab. I know that Kambosos did some good body work. I thought Wyllie late started doing a little good body work. I thought Wyllie won the 12th round. I thought Wyllie made the fight close. I thought he made it close. I'm not going to say he won it, but I thought he made it close. And you know what? The damn referee, yeah, I used the word damn. Yeah, that's the closest I'm going to get to, being that person that starts slinging around words that we shouldn't sling around. I don't think on these platforms. We want to do it privately, go ahead. But I just thought that it wasn't an exciting fight until the later rounds. It became a good fight. I thought before that it was kind of non-pedestrian. Or pedestrian, I'm sorry. It was pedestrian. It was like, and Favorite had the control of it. He was winning the fight. And, it was nothing to write home to mom about. But then later, it started getting good. And it became good. And it finished good. What did not finish freaking good, again, was what the judges gave us at the end. The judges at the end had it 117-111, 117-111, and 115-113. You know what? I can live with the 115-113, or maybe even, right, Bud? Or even make it a point closer. I can live with that. But I can't live with 117-111. I'm sorry. Somebody's got to say something. Somebody's got to. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be constantly the guy out there saying, unfortunately, again, I won't go overboard with the choice of word, but somebody sometimes has to say, simply said, the referee, the ref sometimes, and the judges sometimes, they suck. Somebody's got to say that sometimes. Anyway,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The fight was boring until about the 5th round, and that's when it started to change. And Wyllie started coming on, like you said, made it a very close competitive fight, some good action, and that was a bad cut suffered by Kambosos in the 9th round, and he responded from that. The following round when he had to do something to stop the momentum of Wyllie. I'm curious to see Kambosos next. I worry about him at 140 pounds, where he's not the biggest power puncher, right? And being able to keep guys off of him. He only has 10 wins by knockout in his career, but he's right back in the picture, and it sounds like you said June versus Richardson Hitchens for the 140-pound belt. So we'll see. We'll see what's next.
And that's going to be in New York, I think, where Hitchens is from, and I believe it's going to be in New York. So.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah, that would make sense. And that is also where Kambosos won his title when he beat Teofimo Lopez in New York. So he's comfortable. He's been there. He's done it before. We'll see if he could do it again. So with that being said, that wraps up all the action from Australia. We're going to move on from the fight Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. We had the 154-pound champion Sebastian Fundora versus Cordell Booker. It's been a year layoff for Fundora since he was last in the ring. It's when he won the titles against Tim Tszyu in a bloodbath fight. Wins, takes care of business this time around. 4th round stoppage. Did what he had to do, what he was supposed to do. I guess my question for you is, do you see him getting better? Do you see improvement? I mean, this fight maybe, hey, get this guy out of there. Don't take any chances. But at 6'6", he is the tallest active champion in all of boxing, fighting at 154 pounds. I love to see him grab the canvas. I love to see him control distance more and keep guys at the end of the punch, not walking forward. I still think he's way too erect and a big target inside. His chin is up. You could hit him. With that being said, love to hear your thoughts. What'd you think of his performance, and what'd you think of the fight overall?
I thought in the Tszyu fight, look, blood really was the X factor. Blood, the bleeding of Tszyu in his forehead into his eyes, really bad. That, there's no doubt, that became, that became a huge factor, a bigger factor than it should have been, but it was. And it really, I thought, probably took the title away from Tszyu. But I give Fundora credit. He did what he had to do that night. I thought that night he showed, at least in spots, where he was learning how to fight tall. Like you said, control the outside, use his God-given physical assets of length and height, and keep the guy at the end of his punches. Not fight the other guy's fight by going inside. Even though he'd think that's his fight because he's such a fighter. Fundora is a fighter. I mean, he comes from a fighting family. His sister's a champion. I mean, his father trains him. The guy's a fighter. The guy, you can see it. The guy doesn't, it's not fancy. The guy says, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight you, and that's what I do, and that's what and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go, I'm going to engage you, and, you might hit me some. That's part of the territory of being a fighter. At the end of the day, I'm going to hit you some more. And listen, you love that attitude, but then you have to kind of couple that attitude and cover that attitude and protect that attitude with other things. And some of that is technical things, how to best use, as I touched on earlier, your physical abilities or your physical assets that you've been given. I thought I thought this fight, like I said, I thought in the Tszyu fight there were spots when he started to look like he maybe learned how to fight tall. This fight, that kind of went out the window. I mean, maybe it didn't matter because he was fighting a guy in Brown, 36 years, not Brown, Booker, who's got one loss. His one loss, he got stopped. He got knocked out. And he got knocked out by a fighter that I raved about last week, that we talked about last week, Amo Williams. He got knocked out by him. And so nothing to be ashamed about, but he got knocked out. And so this wasn't expected to be a big test coming off a year layoff for Fundora. And it wasn't. But there was good news and bad news. The good news is Fundora is a good offensive fighter. And even with his height and his length and everything, where sometimes, a lot of times, he don't fight tall and he don't fight in the geography. I would like to see him fight on the outside more. You know, he goes inside. I tell you, he's a good inside fighter too. He shortens his punch. Not too many guys could do that. Riddick Bowe did it when he beat Holyfield the first time. A lot of people didn't think. They thought he would get beat on the inside with Holyfield. But no, he was able to beat Holyfield on the inside by shortening up those longer arms and throwing short, concise punches, damaging punches, uppercuts, everything. Fundora has a lot of confidence in the uppercut and in his power and in his heart, in his attitude. Again, he's going to outfight you. That's kind of, it's up to other people around him, and in this case, really his father, to convince him, yeah, you got that when you need it, but that's not needed all the time. That's not needed all the time. Kind of like in your business in the football. That, you know, you got the quarterback who could throw the bomb, but that's not needed all the time. Let's be able to run the ball. Let's be able to do other things. Let's be able to throw short passes too. Open up the defense a little. That's not, we know we got the bomb if we need it, but let's not get to the point where we always are looking for it, because then the other side's going to know that's what's coming. Same thing here. You want Fundora to become a guy that, yeah, we know he's got heart. We know he can fight inside, but do what your physical assets kind of demand you to do. Dominate guys on the outside. Make it their job to have to get inside, to take risk, to be forced to do something they're not good at doing. Fundora doesn't do that. He does you a favor. But at the end, it's not always a favor because he beats you up inside. But he comes to you. Like, when I see a tall guy, the first thing I'm thinking as a trainer, how am I going to get to this guy? This guy says, Teddy, you don't have to worry about it. I'm coming to you. I'll be right there. Ted, you tell your fighter I'll be there in 2 minutes. As soon as they ring the bell. You guys going to ring the bell? I'll be right there. I mean, you don't have to figure it out. Here's the good news. As I said, he's a good offensive fighter. He could be good on the outside or the inside. He throws short punches, damaging punches, beautiful uppercuts. Really, he can punch inside with anybody. Here's the bad news. His defense ain't good. His offense is at sometimes it's really good because it's smooth. He's got power. He mixes his punches. He's got a good assortment, a good array of punches. He mixes them up beautifully. Goes up top, goes underneath, beautifully. But his offense sometimes stinks. His defense, His defense, like I said about the judges, sometimes they stink. Or sometimes Fundora's defense too often stinks. Because he takes those great physical assets and he puts them in the wrong place. He puts them in close with you. He allows you to get in close. Where now it's not an advantage. It's a disadvantage. Because there's a lot of target now. A lot of target. And he just stands tall. Almost waiting to get hit. Brown might have won the first round because he landed Booker, because he landed 2 clean punches, probably were the most telling punches of the round. That was the only round he won, but he probably won that round. More importantly, he showed how easy it is to get inside on this guy. He used his feet. He's small, Brown. Of course, Booker, he's smaller than Fundora. Everyone's smaller than Fundora, but Booker's even smaller. Because, he's a guy that don't have much height. To begin with. Even if he was fighting a guy who was more ordinary in size, he'd probably be the smaller guy. And yet he got in. How? He just moved in. He used his legs. All of a sudden, he just skated in, skated out. Skated in, skated out. And when he skated in, all he had to do was chuck punches. All he had to do was chuck. He chucked a few punches. He's a southpaw. He was landing the right hook, But they were both southpaws, so it was a battle of southpaws. But Booker would just chuck a few punches, like I said, up top. You almost didn't even have to look. Just close your eyes, do this, bud, and throw. You're going to hit something because it's there. Because he's tall, it's there. It's not moving. It's not getting low. He doesn't get small. He just stands tall when you get close. So the good news, he looked good offensively. The bad news, and he showed a lot of heart, as always, and a good chin. The bad news is he showed he gets hit a lot again. And it's not hard to get in on him. You just move in, you throw something up top, you're going to land. The problem with Booker is he wasn't throwing with bad intention. He's not a big puncher to begin with, but he wasn't really throwing. He was throwing like powder puff punches. He was almost throwing don't hit me punches. You know, like I don't want to hit you too hard. Don't hit me too hard. Almost like that. Don't think there's not psychological arrangements and deals being made in a fight for the fans out there. There are. That's why I always say the guy who's better up here usually wins if he's got enough talent, of course. But he usually wins if he's better up here, upstairs, where it counts the most. 75% of it's mental. So it almost looked like Booker was looking to survive more than win. Like he was, he had some spots where it was good. He moved his hands a little. But again, it was almost like he was throwing just to stay in there, like to hope that he could survive. Rather than really, when he's in there throwing to try to win or trying to get rid of this guy, trying to hurt the guy. Hey, look, he's not a big puncher, so maybe I'm being a little unfair. I don't think I am, but maybe I am. I always allow the possibility that that maybe I could be a little bit off with that. We all can. But at the end of the day, there was no being off about the opinion of saying that Fundora is too easy to hit still. Yeah, I love his attitude. I love his family. I love everything about it. How it's a family. It's a family affair all the way. And I love, like I said, the way he shortens punches up on the inside. I love the pressure. Yeah, he broke down Booker. He just kept coming. And look, to his credit, what did he come behind? The jab. The only thing is, like you said at the opening, he don't have to move in all the time behind the jab. Because when you move in, you get closer to the other guy's punches. But he did come in behind the jab. That is the fundamentally right way to do it. He came in. He kept hitting him with that jab, kept the pressure on. He didn't cut the ring down. He followed Booker a lot. He's got to learn how to cut the ring down if he's going to be that kind of pursuer, right? If you're going to be a pursuer, you got to learn how to pursue. The right way to pursue is, like in your business, the linebacker has to move lateral down the line. He can't just go chasing after the running back. He's got to keep himself in front of the running back. Well, Fundora's got to learn how to use that. At the end of the day, his pressure broke him down, and then his punches got rid of him. But the pressure got Booker, paralyzed Booker, got Booker to move less, wore him down, and did it quickly. What was it, 4 rounds? Did it quickly. Yeah, did it quickly. He evaporated, like I talk about the boiling water. He evaporated the pot of water, and he did it pretty quick. Behind the jab, constant pressure, attitude. When he hit him, he acted like it didn't matter, just kept coming at him. All of that broke him down.
Yeah, good finisher. When he gets a guy hurt, he knows how to finish.
No, he does. Listen, he got the job done. I would just love to see. You don't see too many guys with those physical elements, those physical assets. I would just love when he fights the better guys again. He got this one out of the way. He got an easy one. Turned out to be easy, but they picked one that figured to be a little easier with the year layoff. But then what? Then those things we're talking about, those things are going to be at play. They're going to be at play.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, you said he's not the biggest puncher and he only has 14 knockouts, but we always talk about the power punchers usually have that kind of frame, right? Long, wiry, full extension and leverage.
No, Fundora's a big puncher. I was talking about Booker's not the biggest puncher.
I got you. But He still doesn't have a lot of knockouts.
No, I think Fundora's a pretty good puncher.
But if he starts fighting with more control, distance, and range and utilizing that length, do you think he becomes even bigger puncher? Does he become a huge puncher?
That's a good point, actually. He keeps guys at the end of it, and you get full extension on your punch. The uppercut he throws inside, perfect. It's really good. And he is a good puncher. But I was talking about Booker really not being a big puncher. But the thing is that when you get a guy, to your point, when you keep a guy at the end of your punches and you can hit him, you can get full force, full impact on the punch. When you can extend it, get full extension. Tommy Hearns learned how to do that. Man, did he learn how to do that. Where he'd set you up with the jab and then full extension on the right hand. And boom. He could throw short punches inside too. But when he got full extension and had you at the end of his punch, he was devastating. And it's the same thing with, to your point with Fundora. Yeah, if he could keep guys at the end, that would help him. It would help his defense and his offense in that kind of way. If he could keep guys at the end, it makes sense. It makes sense for all the right reasons. Not only for the reason that you touched on here, to get full use out of your power, full utilization, just the full impact of your power by keeping the guy at the outside. But again, you're making it hard for the guy. You're keeping a guy at the end of your punches where if he wants to get close to you now, it's hard. It's not easy. When you come in, you're right there. There's no difficulty to finding a way to get to the guy. You have to make it difficult for your opponent to find a way to get to you. And you got to make it painful for him to find a way to get to you. You got to do what I said when I was doing all the commentating for those years. And I still do when we do our live streaming and stuff, where you got to make the guy go through a bad neighborhood and you have to mug him. And that really should always be the fight plan, for me at least, for Fundora. Okay, make him go through a bad neighborhood and mug him when he tries to go through it.
Yeah. You mentioned Tommy Hearns. I mean, I think about when I watch him, Paul Williams, when I was younger as a kid. He was about 6'1", fighting at 154 pounds, and just what a freak he looked like in that division. Is there anybody else? Am I missing anybody? Have we ever seen, 6'6" almost, fighting at 154?
Well, I'd have to have a minute to think about it, but we've had some tall guys but this guy he takes the cake.
Yeah, no question.
I'm trying to think of any other taller guys that have had a level of success with those assets, because we've had a few. Trying to again, I can't.
Deontay Wilder is tall and he's long, right? Hamza Shiraz was fighting at 160, 6'3". So
if you're gonna go to different, Shiraz is a good one. There's other ones too from the past that have been tall. If you're going to jump around weight classes above where we are with the junior middleweight or middleweight, you go to Bob Foster, who was a great light heavyweight champion. He was tall and wiry, had great power and great size and knew how to use it, knew how to mug guys trying to get into him. The problem with Bob Foster was he tried to go up and win the heavyweight title, and there was two guys that were pretty damn good, named Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. That wasn't a good idea. That's where you need a good manager. Sometimes I joke about, a fighter needs a real estate agent, a good real estate agent, because it's about location, geography, where you have to go, where you have to set up to build your house. And in the case of Bob Foster, he didn't need a real estate agent. He needed a manager that just said, you know what? Maybe there's a few heavyweights that we can pick a spot if you want to play around with the heavyweight, but not these two. Not these two. But Bob Foster was one of the great light heavyweights and great punches and was built like we talk about, wiry, where they get torque, they get leverage in their punches, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, the next thing is, how long can he make 154 pounds? We'll see. But he's got 2 of the belts there at that division. And
you ever look at his arms? They're about this thick.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I mean, as long as his arms stay this thick, he probably could keep making it. But see, he wouldn't make it with me, and I probably would be wrong. See, I'm willing to admit I'd be wrong. But if I would put him in a weight room and try to put a little bulk on him, where when he is on the inside, I try to do 2 things. I would try to mix defense with offense, try to merge the 2. When he is inside, get your head on the side, get your head out of the middle. Don't stand as that erect target. Get small sometimes. Squat down, get your head on the side. Move that head, get the hell out of the middle. I would try to do that. And I also would want him to just feel that you want to be inside, you're good inside. All right, give him a little bit of that, that physicality to where people wouldn't feel they could push him around on the inside, Not that anybody's really pushed him around much on the inside, but his one loss where he got knocked out, who was that, Mendoza?
Brian Mendoza.
Yeah, Mendoza. Was basically with a left hook, and then he put together some vicious punches behind the left hook. But again, he got on the inside, he got comfortable being inside, pushing him backwards on the inside, feeling that he could manhandle him on the inside. And maybe fighters wouldn't feel that way to get inside if he had a little more bulk. See, I'm always looking at that part of it too. Where is a fighter mentally? Yeah, I don't want a fighter if he's in a good place mentally, he's going to be in a good place physically. If my fighter's opponent is in a good place mentally, he's gonna then think he can be in a good place physically. I don't want him to be in a good place mentally. I don't want him thinking that, I can go and bully this guy around on the inside. I just don't want him thinking that. That's all.
Yeah, we'll see what's next. We got Bakram Muchazayev, 154 champion. Sergey Boachuk is right there as well. Xander Zayas, Virgil Ortiz. So we will see what is next for Sebastian Fundora. But that was a great breakdown by you for all the boxing this weekend. We will switch gears and transition over to the UFC. Fight night card was in the UK. We'll start off before we get to the main event with Kevin Holland fought Gunnar Nelson. Holland continues his roller coaster career of up and down. He feels like he wins, loses, and just keeps going on and on. But he bounces back. Not the most action in this fight, except for the end of the first round where Holland did land a big shot and might have won the round single-handedly just off of that, although Nelson was controlling the ground and was on top for the majority of the round. But Holland wins the fight pretty much off of his back. What'd you think of the fight and Holland's performance? What'd you make of the decision?
I think Holland, I really like Holland. I think he's a talented fighter, but I think he's got a great personality. I think he's a guy that's hard not to like. He's very intelligent. I love the way that he just treats his opponents, the way he talks, the way he presents himself. To me, he's a guy that's natural guy to just cheer for, to root for. I think he's an up and down guy for a reason. What do I talk about? What we just finished talking about, this part, the attic, the upstairs, right? The mental part. 75% of it's mental. I just think Holland is up and down mentally. Yeah, he's if he could get himself steady, whether you want to call it confidence, whether you want to call it, confidence, belief in himself, whatever you want to go into to account for the mental area. If he can be consistent, when he's right mentally, he is a difficult guy. He's a really good striker. He's that wiry guy you just talked about that has power, that can punch. He's really gifted at this, really good at the striking, and he's learned how to defend the takedowns pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. That won the fight for him. Defending, not allowing Nelson to really be productive on the ground when he got him there. He wasn't able to do damage. And one thing that I won't argue with you about, but I'll go back to, I thought it was a key in the fight, was the beginning, the first round. He was, yes, Nelson was winning the round, but there's no doubt Holland won that first round because that was, first of all, Nelson was very fortunate. Not fortunate, he showed a lot of heart, but he was
saved by the bell.
He was lucky. No, more than that. He was saved by the ref. A lot of refs would have stopped that. And I'll tell you why I think the ref didn't stop it. Not because he's a bad ref, because it turned out he made the right judgment, right? But a lot of refs. I mean, that knockdown, the jab set up the right hand, and Holland hit him right on the button, and he was hurt. And he went down, and Holland was hitting him with the hammer fist. And he was really close to that point where he could have got seriously hurt. He was close to going out. And he was getting hit clean enough where I would say, I don't want to put a number on it, say 9 out of 10, but I would say 7 out of 10 refs might have stopped that. I'll take the chance. I'll put myself out there and say, I bet you 7 out of 10 might have stopped or would have stopped that. But I think the key was the referee had a little method to his madness. And I give him credit. I think he heard that. I think he heard the clap of 10 seconds. And in his mind, he knew he was trying to give the guy a chance. And he knew there was only seconds to survive. So he gave him those seconds. Now, that could be a game of Russian roulette. That could be a dangerous game because one of those could be the one too many when you should have stopped it. When you should. But the referee, it turned out, it worked out for him. It worked out for Nelson. He was able to survive. He was able to fight the other 2 rounds. And, yeah, I thought Holland won it. I thought that one of the keys was after that round, he didn't allow Nelson to do damage when he had him on the floor. I said that already. He showed good striking skills and the ability to be explosive. I thought just that separated it. You know, with the knees, with the flying knees. He hit him with some knees. He hit him with some shots. He just has the offensive ability, he being Holland, to be explosive in moments. I thought those moments won the fight. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thought the judges got it right. I mean, like you said, one guy is controlling the clock and the ground game on top, but he wasn't doing any damage. And Holland was the one doing the damage from his back, like you said. So I thought the judges got it right in that one.
Yeah, I did too. They didn't suck in that one.
Well, we'll move on to the next one. The co-feature of the evening was Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz is a former light heavyweight champion. Ulberg ranked in the top 5, top 6 light heavyweights now currently. Not a ton of action, more tactical than action in this one. Blachowicz was trying to be the aggressor, being the one to push forward, the powerful man. And Ulberg was very tactical and moving and mixing up some kicks and strikes. Another one where tough rounds to score, right? But I did think the judges got it right. Ulberg gets the win, gets the decision victory. What'd you think of the decision? What'd you think of this one?
I think that it's kind of like sometimes judges are kind of like when you take your kids, to the ice cream parlor. Yeah, Rich. Rich looking at me like, where is he going now? Do you like strawberry, vanilla, or chocolate? Or something else? Rich is going, me? What do you like, Rich, since you think I'm asking you? Mint chocolate chip. All right. That's not served. That's not being served. We're just doing traditional right now. Chocolate, strawberries, but it's a good one. I don't knock you for it. It's very interesting. But that's what this fight came down to. what flavor did the judges like? Did they like the aggressor or the boxer? That's it. To me, it was that simple. And it shouldn't be, because there should be a real strict criterion that it's not a matter of what style you like. It's a matter of who's landing the cleaner, more explosive punches, more damaging, period. Whether he's floating like a butterfly or stinging like a bee. That's all it should come down to. But again, I really do think that that's what it came down to. Close fight, hard to differentiate, but what did the judges prefer? Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry? A boxer, a guy who lives on the outside, controls the geography like Ulberg does on the outside, or a guy like Blachowicz who's a beast. He's strong, he's a puncher, and he's always looking to come forward. I thought that Blachowicz has a really good jab. I don't think he gets enough credit because he's a powerful guy. You're thinking of the other stuff, the big arsenal. You're thinking of the bazooka stuff. I think he has a good jab. I don't think he uses it enough all the time. I don't think that. I think there was spots when he did use it where he doubled it up, where he came forward and closed the gap, where he was very effective with it. But again, I just didn't think he was using it quite enough. I thought if he did use a little more, he might have got one of those close rounds that he needed. At the end of the day, yeah, as you said earlier, it's about geography. And Ulberg, won the battle of geography for the most part. Definitely in the minds of the judges. He controlled the outside. Not a greatly entertaining fight, but it won the fight for him.
Yeah, and that's 8 wins in a row now for Ulberg, so he's a bona fide contender. We'll see what's next. That'll take us to the main event. In the main event, we had Sean Brady taking on Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards, a good friend of the show, former world champion. This was his first fight back since losing his belt to Bilal Muhammad. He was supposed to initially fight Jack Della Maddalena and instead was replaced by Brady. And unfortunately for Edwards, this was a tough one. He got it pretty good, right? Brady, strong, aggressive guy, was getting the best of it. But the biggest moment was in the third round. Edwards made a poor decision and shot for a takedown. And what a mistake that was. Played right into the hands of Brady. And then in the following round, Brady finishes it off, gets a submission win where Edwards taps. What'd you think of the fight? What'd you think of Brady?
First, I'm going to start with the third round because you set it up like we set up for your son the tee ball to hit off the tee. I mean, it's the right place because it's the place we're talking about, right? That separates all these great fighters that all have great talent, great ability, the mental place. Why did he shoot? Why did he do? He's a smart guy. He's a former champ. Why did he do something so stupid? Why? Just a mistake or was it kamikaze? Really? I'm sorry. Someone has to say it's a tough job. Somebody got to do it. Somebody got to sometimes bring out these things that are not easy to bring out. And not easy to. I love Edwards. But he's in a tough spot. He's even said he's trying to get the fire back. He came back. He wants to get the time. It might not be as urgent to him as it was before he had the title. That happens. We're human. We don't know. I'm just saying that's a possibility. That the urgency might not be quite the same to go to the places he was prepared to go to before he won the title. He had to go there again against this monster. The guy's not only scary good, he's scary looking. Yeah. I mean, you don't get that too often. Where you got a guy that you say, wow, this guy is scary good. Yeah, but he's scary looking too. Just to look at him scares the crap out of you. And then to fight him gets rid of whatever crap didn't already come out of you. Because he's that damn good. And I tell you where he really impressed me. His striking. We know how great he is as a grappler. He's a damn good striker. I was very impressed the way that Brady drew combinations coming forward with his feet under him, not getting out of position or leaving himself open to a counter. Edwards, the first round was close. That was the only close round. And it was close because Edwards doesn't waste anything. He's technically solid. He's cerebral. He looks to counter. He was trying to keep space where Brady couldn't shoot to get to him, and also where he could counter Brady. And he did. He countered some nice shots. I thought Brady got the takedown late. He made it clear that he won that round, but it was a close round up to that point. I thought Brady secured it late, but it was a close first round again, with Edwards just fighting smart, fighting cautiously, but fighting also where he's pulling the trigger when he has to. He's ready. He's pulling, just controlling space, looking at counter, looking to do that. And then, of course, everything changed. But to win this fight, he was going to have to get down and dirty. To win this fight, he was going to have to fight a disciplined fight, not get taken to the ground. What I mean by down and dirty, I don't mean in the pits. I just mean that mentally he had to get down and dirty. He had to get back to that place where it was that important to him, where he was willing to go into that dark place and know that he could come out of it. I don't know. Again, I do know the psychology of fighting. That's my business. And I do know that the question that needs to be asked, was it just a stupid thing that he did in the third? I'm sure his cornermen are thinking about it, saying, what the frick did he do? What the frick did he do that for? Or was it, again, I love the guy. Excuse me that I have to say things that sometimes are not easy to say. But was he just trying to get it over with? Was it just that he had lost faith? He had lost that ability to be strong in those kind of situations and to go into those dark places. So he just threw himself to the wolves to get it over with. I've talked before where I remember seeing guys that fought Tyson, and when they fought Tyson, when Tyson was Tyson, and they just went right at him. And a lot of people say, wow, give him credit. Very brave. Yes, he was. I'm not taking that away. And I'm not taking away that Edwards ain't brave and tough. He's all that. He's a champion. He was a champion. You don't become a champion without becoming. I'm talking about now. He's human. I'm talking about where he is now. Sometimes these things can happen. I remember when guys would fight Tyson and they would just go right after him and they get knocked out in one round. And people would say, well, you got to give him credit. He was confident. He believed he could go get him. So he went and gave it a... No, he wasn't. He did that because he wasn't confident. He did that because he was out of control. He did that because he just wanted to get it over with. Sometimes that happens, okay? That's the psychological warfare. That's the psychological battle. That's 75% of it. And that's why it's 75% of it. So I don't know. All I know is that Brady is damn good. He is freaking good. He is a monster. Again, his striking was very impressive, coming forward, putting shots together, his technique, every bit of it. And then, of course, man, when he gets you on that floor, you talk about, I never used this term in UFC, but I use it now. I always talk about the fighters throwing punches with bad intentions. He throws freaking moves on the floor with one-arm grips and this and that and guillotines. He throws all of that stuff with bad intentions. He doesn't do anything with good intentions. That's what makes him so damn good and dangerous.
Yeah, extremely impressive performance by Brady, and a great breakdown by you. Because watching it, I just thought, would he panic wrestle? But listening to you now, it might have been something along those lines of the mental game of that you were saying. It didn't make sense watching it live, and it didn't work out for him. But I thought that was very interesting points by you and a great breakdown. So That wraps up a great week of action, all the fights from boxing from the UFC. So before we sign off and look forward to seeing everybody next week, any final words?
Yeah, yeah, I do have one final thing I want to say. I opened up by talking about the great late George Foreman. We also lost somebody else that was special in this business, Colin Hart, great writer for many, 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 many years from England. He covered the sport the right way. You know, he. If you didn't see the fight, or if you saw it, but he would write what happened in every dimension of it, where you felt like you were there. And he did that because he was talented, but he also did that because he had a passion for the sport. And George Foreman was in a position where he could make history by the things he did in the ring. And he made history. We talked about that history and how we're thinking about it. Why are we thinking about it? Why are we talking about that history? Because somebody wrote it. Yeah, history has to be made by the fighters, but there has to be somebody to also write it so we can understand it, we can see it, we can appreciate it. And that someone was Colin Hart for many, many years. He did it as good and better than anybody. Thank you, Colin. God bless.
Yeah, beautiful words, beautifully said. About 4 or 5 months ago in Saudi Arabia, I was lucky enough to meet Khan there at one of the fights in Riyadh. And what a gentleman, and what a privilege for me to be able to say I met him. So rest easy to him and to George Foreman once again. And thank you guys for joining us. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.